Hello and welcome back to another happy hour. I'm Ryan Fring, creative director here at Backflip, otherwise known as Batman. We don't have John today. He's actually working. He's got work to do. We have a big commercial shoot coming up next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, commercial with a bunch of tutorials. So we're doing a lot of work for that. And he ducked out because we still have some work to do, and he wanted to make sure we got stuff done so he didn't have to work too hard over the weekend. But this is a happy hour, and it wouldn't be happy hour if there wasn't a glitch. Basically, right when I clicked the go live video, the countdown, my whole screen or my whole browser refreshed, which is really, really awesome. That's just the joy of being live. So this is happy hour, and today I've got something fun. This is NA gin. I also have a whiskey that tastes pretty good, but this is from a company called Monday, and I'm mixing that with a little ginger ale, a little Zevia. So I've got kind of a very, very light and refreshing, no alcohol, no calorie sort of treat, which if you know me, that's kind of a big deal these days. A lot of fun. But that's not why we're here. We're here to hang out with Benny, so I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. There he is. How's it going, man?
Hey, how are you? I'm doing good.
I am well. Thanks again for joining me, hanging out for your lunch break. How you been?
I'm doing good. Just getting through the days. Still post pandemic ish. Are we still in there? We don't know. Getting through it. Yeah, just working, being a dad, being a musician, being a toy collector, a little bit of everything.
Dude,
getting through it though.
I love that so much, because as soon as you came on, I'm like trying to look in your background to see what those are. The hat that you had on before, I think it was Spider-Man, but it looked Chinese or Japanese or something, which is pretty rad. So I was like, this guy, he gets me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll even, for the sake of, I have toys on my walls. It's like everywhere. There's like collectible stuff. My wall up here.
Nice.
My cassettes, my boombox. I am a nerd.
Little Mega Man. Nice.
Yep. Yeah. I'm a little bit of everything, man. I'm a gamer too, so just add that to it.
I love that. I gotta show you some of these. You can see one of them fell off. I think it was my Zelda one fell off. But these are kind of like, I don't know, characters from my childhood.
That's pretty epic. I'm a big Rangers guy myself, so.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a funny one. I'll even watch, the newer versions once in a while just to be like, I wonder how that's turned out. Because I also have kids and they get a kick out of it, which is fun. So, yeah, what do you got today? What are you drinking? I know you grabbed something special.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned I'm not a alcohol drinker, but I love grabbing some unique sodas as I go out and about. There's a small shop out where I'm at in Staten Island, New York. I live in New Jersey, but it's like really close. Place called Pop Fizz. I think they have stores around the states, and they sell a lot of sodas. Is their big thing. They have like 4 or 5 fridges of like really obscure sodas. Like you can get butter soda, mustard soda, but then you can get like just cool stuff. And this is sarsaparilla from CO City. And it's the granddaddy of all root beers. I'm a big sarsaparilla guy. I got into this with my wife as well. I love root beer, so I kind of become a sucker for root beer, birch beer, and now sarsaparilla, and it's delicious.
It's funny. I when you said the sarsaparilla, I was like, something about that seems familiar. So Sioux City, that's in Iowa. That's where my family is. So I'm sure we've come across it at some point because it seems like kind of a significant brand that would be in the area.
and I do apologize for missaying it then. And that
How dare
what
you?
what a coincidence, right? Of all locations that it could
I
possibly
know,
be.
right? Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Benny, we're meeting for the first time. And I've read your bio and I shared that, but just tell me a little bit more about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. I'm late 30s nerd, like I said. I have been a lover of music, video games, collecting toys, movies, and like music has always been at the heart of my life. So when I was about 4 years old, my father bought my first Casio, which was one of those
Hmm.
older, tiny keyboards that had the little hexagon pads on them for the drums. And
Yeah.
I used to, I never had formal lessons. My dad just got it for me because he thought I'd get a kick out of it. I ended up with a Casio. They're very popular now. Funny enough, it's a
Hmm.
synth.
Retro.
It's a synth guitar. Like it has strings on it,
Oh.
but it's electronic. I had all this stuff, and I figured out how to play them on my own. But I used to sit in front of TVs, and I used to listen to commercials, and I would try to learn the melody by ear. So I'd say a large portion of my knowledge with music is by playing by ear. Like I hear something, I tend to kind of try to replicate it. That's how I've auditioned for bands for many years while I was still playing out and doing shows. My last big band, which was a rock band based in New York called Ghosts of Eden,
Mhm.
mutual friend was in the band. I was doing my own thing. He's like, "We need a drummer for a show. How soon can you learn the songs?" I didn't have a place to play drums or anything like that, but he sent me the tracks. I used to listen to them on my work commute every day. I said,
Hmm.
"All right, let's rent the studio for 2 hours." My audition was the first time me actually playing the songs on the drums. They were like, "How long have you been practicing these?" And I was like, "All right, they can tell." And they're like, "No, it sounds like you know them better than our previous drummer." And I was like, "This is the first time I'm playing them." I said, "I've just listened to them. I've kind of, I close my eyes. I kind of think about how the songs play out and how I would do it because they said, add your own little taste to them."
Hmm.
2 days later was this show, so I had one practice, played a full 45-minute set with these guys. They're like, "You're in. You're the new
Hmm.
drummer." I'm like, "I thought I was doing a show," and then we played for almost 9 years together. We did a lot
Oh
of
wow.
shows in New York. We had the pleasure of selling out venues like Irving Plaza, Hammerstein Ballroom, Gramercy Theater, which we actually sold as a headlining artist with no tour support, which was a pretty big deal for us. We've released. There was 3 CDs that were released during the time. I was on 2 of them, and it was just awesome. But yeah, like music has been like the forefront of most of my love, if you will. It's been there
Hmm.
throughout. um, right now, like I do studio work with Neon Arcadia. Like we're not able to tour and perform actively. Believe it or not, the band actually doesn't even rehearse together. Um, the band hasn't even met each other in person, if you can believe that. There's 4 of
Oh
us.
wow.
One lives in Tennessee. The other 2 members and myself live in New Jersey. We're pretty close to each other. I know all 3 members. The other 3 have not met each other in person, not once, and we've been together about 3 years. Everything has been through a very long text message chat. That's how we've gotten all of our music done, and it's pretty
Dude, that's
incredible.
cool. And
Thank you.
that's before we were forced to do that with COVID.
Go figure, right? And I said, now we have a chance. We don't need to meet each other. We're good. This is you don't want to screw anything
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I just got to plug this in. It's telling me my battery is low.
No problem.
There we go.
Yeah, and if you look behind
Um,
me,
there we go.
for the most part, what you're seeing above me is all the cover art minus maybe 2 or 3 of
Yeah, I thought I
everything in the
recognized some of those. Yeah.
yeah. So I take a lot of pride in the fact that we've only been together for 3 years and we've been able to put this amount of music out. With
Mhm.
having day jobs, having kids, having families, and finding that happy medium.
Yeah, and who creates that art? That's pretty awesome art.
So I have a couple of artists that work closely with me. My
Okay.
first main artist, his name is Adam Soltis. He is an artist. He's a designer. He does a lot of different things. He does a lot of customizing of like action figures. If you're familiar with Amiibo, he's very
Yeah, yeah.
known for turning Amiibos into zombies, known as Zumiibo. He actually helped design our initial logo. He did a majority of these. And then there's also our good friend Codex 84, who's my other artist that has done a lot more of the more current. So
Mm,
like the EP, my finger's not matching here. My EP right here, where he actually designed the whole band. This was done by him. And then there's actually a couple here that were done by our drummer, Bill Fore. So the Hunter, Chemicals, and No Time were all done by Bill. So we've had a variety
dude,
of
that's cool.
styles and different inputs, which has been great. It's
Mm.
been it's awesome.
I love the brand of that though too. Like I feel like us in our 30s, late 30s, like there's just such a resurgence of those things that we loved as a kid, and in many cases were like made fun of, like
Very true.
for like video games or sci-fi,
Power Rangers.
movies, Power Rangers.
I got abused as a young adult working at Best Buy for being a Power Rangers fan, and I laugh now because
Yeah.
anything that comes out, people like nerd over, and I'm just
Hmm.
like, you made fun of me for this. I have probably 32 Power Ranger shirts over the last 20 years of collecting, and
Oh,
it's
nice.
just
Yeah.
it's crazy to see what it's become, and I appreciate it as a fan, seeing the franchise grow. But yeah,
Hmm.
like nostalgia is such a big thing right now. If it's old, it's cool, for the most
Hmm.
part. Except for
Hmm.
VHS, like some people still haven't adapted to appreciate what it was. I have friends
Yeah.
that started collecting VHS again now. So it's
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I mean, I have my
Like,
tapes, but my audio cassettes are, believe it or
sure.
not, a majority of these are current. These are like other members in the synthwave scene that I support, along with
Hmm.
a cassette of my own that we put out.
Sure.
So, there's reasons for it, and believe it or not, I actually have old cassettes from like my rehearsals, like my old band
Mm.
rehearsals or other bands that I were friends with. So I have that nostalgia to be able to just throw it in a boombox and hear it whenever I want. It's great.
Yeah. And what's like the audio quality with cassettes? You know.
It's gonna be definitely more on the flat side, comparing, the type of audio that we could put out nowadays. Vinyl is very big in demand again. If you're
Hmm.
like an audiophile that is into collecting music, people are looking for vinyl. Like people want
Hmm.
our vinyl, our music on vinyl, but the problem is if you don't get a certain demand, it's very costly. And we
Right.
don't we
Sure.
don't we don't have the fan base to really expand that, as far as physical goes. But
Hmm.
comparing the two, I feel that the audio cassette is more of a nostalgia collecting factor. I don't know if most people that buy these cassettes actually listen to them. I'm probably one of the few because a lot of times I'll
Sure.
find unfortunate defects. Sometimes if the tape is wound too tight or too loose, you're going to get speed differences and pitch differences. So I'll
Hmm.
reach out to some of the artists and I'll say, "Hey, I listened to the tape. It's kind of funky." I deal with it because I don't want to be that guy. And again, it is for collecting as well. And the fact that
Yeah.
I do have an audio source, but that's the risk when you're doing cassettes like that. But I feel most people have them. They're probably sealed on display, and that's about it. So
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's fun. I love having the art up and the old nerdy stuff. Like here, I've got, so this is my office at my studio. In our production office over on the other side of the studio, I've got like an old Nintendo. I've got my Sega, my SNES, and all games. And I love it because across the board, everyone's like, "Oh, that's so cool." And then their kind of inner nerd comes out as well. Like maybe they played a lot, maybe they played a little, but it's so much fun across the board because people come in and see this. And I don't think it's just because we're adults now and adults make fun of each other less. I think there's something to just authentically being nerdy and that being okay now. you know
I agree. I think that it's just the pop culture of the world has really um, been built around it, if you will.
Hmm.
A little more about my history just as a child. My dad owned a comic book store when I was growing up. So when I say I've been around it my whole life, I've been around it my whole life. And seeing, for a perfect example, what Marvel has become in the
Mm.
world of the movies and just the
Hmm.
franchise in general, it's just astounding. And I'm so appreciative of being able to kind of been there at its lows. Even though I was a young kid, I knew like Marvel wasn't doing well when my dad had his store. It was like,
Hmm.
you're crazy to have a comic book store. Disney was going to go, Marvel was going to go bankrupt. So there's just a lot of appreciation for the memories of all the things that were, but how they've resurged in such a popularity for new generations and old. Because Power
Hmm.
Rangers is an example of something that is being built for new audiences, but the listeners like us and the viewers like us still go and check it out. Like I do the same thing. I'll go check out Dino Charge or whatever just to see where they've gone. And now that Hasbro owns it, like that's a whole nother can of worms of discussion. But yeah, that's the love that we have. When
Hmm.
you wanna get into it and talk about it.
Yeah. Have you seen the Toys That Made Us on Netflix?
I have, and I also watch. I
Oh,
actually watch on repeat. I don't know if you've seen on Amazon, the Toy Store near you. There's pretty much the
oh,
same
I
kind of
haven't seen that one.
concept. Yeah, I don't know. I think the companies kind of either work together because they kind of share each other's posts on Facebook. But a Toy Store near you, there's 2 seasons, and it's basically a production company that basically found little mom and pop shops throughout the world. A couple of different places in the U.S., a couple in Jersey actually,
Hmm.
speaks with the owners, and believe it or not, it's very relevant because he talks about the stores, but then he talks about what they went through last year and how the pandemic affected them and how a lot of them went to live auction. And it's a
Hmm.
really fascinating look at the world of commerce in retail for collectors, because that's such a unique business. Like you don't know what you're going to make any day. You can sell 2 figures and that's your money for the day. You can sell a valuable collector item for $10,000 and make your budget for a month.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
just a crazy world, but the passion and the love is in it so much. You're willing to take that risk, and that reminded
Hmm.
me of what my dad went through. Having a comic book store was always a gamble, and I feel it still is, because it's
Hmm.
it's it's its own category. And again, you're not going to have people flushing into those stores all the time and buying something
Right.
repeatedly. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, especially I think of myself when I walk into a comic book store, and even as adult, I'm like, I don't want to spend more than $10, get 3 books or 2 books or something. And then I think like, how are they making money? Like, obviously they figured something out. But to that same point, I would love, if I can ever be successful enough, I would love to like have a comic book store, collectible store. I would love to run a movie theater, and I have no doubt that it's not going to be like the moneymaker for me, but like just again the passion for that stuff, the love of it, the love of sharing it, whether it's uh, comic books, collectibles, or movies. I just love that idea of bringing people together over those shared things, or like a game store. Um, maybe down the road, but I think if you have a good perspective on it, that could work out. But obviously, people are doing it and successful. Like I see this guy on TikTok, and he kind of blew up on TikTok, but he always talks about his store, his game store, and it's just all the care that he takes into everything, like the tables that he built and the chairs that he got, and just everything. And that's, I don't know, that's good people doing good stuff so that we can come together and just share. Um, I don't know, share the things that bring us joy.
that's a great way of saying it. I couldn't say it better. I feel that, like, for me, I've always had that dream. Like I wish my dad's store would have been around. I wish, what my life would have been if that store was passed down, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But then at the same time, I'm around the age that he was running that stuff, and I'm like, it's never too late. But again, you have to always counteract the risks and the reward, and can you uplift your life, uproot everything from the ground to do something like that? But what I try to do is I find a balance, and I have a lot of retail experience. I worked retail for
Mm.
more than half my life, so I know the sales side of things. I did trade shows growing up with my father as a kid, and then I do trade shows now. Like I do them for press because I write for a video game site. Another thing that I do. I also do shows where like I'll be a vendor and I'll sell stuff
Mm.
that I have. I literally just did a show this past Sunday in Woodbridge, New Jersey. It was a toy convention, small room, maybe 40 tables. It was awesome. And the reward for me, other than selling stuff, was finding stuff you like, connecting with other people that walk by your table and
Hmm.
they're like, oh my God, you have that. And then you start
Hmm.
talking about that. You know what I mean? Like you connect with it.
Hmm.
An experience that you can't, I don't feel you get in many other places.
Yeah, and especially not online. I know over the last year they've tried to move a lot online, and there's been successes, and it's definitely commendable. But I've been looking here. So I live in Madison, Wisconsin, and I've been looking because 2 years ago or 3 years ago, there was like a WizardCon, convention here, or Madison Comic Con or whatever, at the convention center, and it was kind of small, but it was so much fun because we met people who drew big comics back in the day, who were inking big comics now, authors, people just passionate who are traveling from around the state or even the country just to come to this little convention. And I even met somebody who I knew in high school who now produces graphic novels on the side, kind of independent graphic novels. Not somebody that I would normally reconnect with, but just walking around and I saw a cover and my kids and I walked over there, and then all of a sudden it was this guy, Dan, and we're like, holy cow, this is awesome. Like, tell me more about this. And it was so fun, so joyful. So like lately I keep looking, I think it's maybe in October is when they're doing it this year, but I kind of want to get more back into that stuff. Um, my older kids want to go to like actual Comic Con too. We've never been. I've never been, but
Okay.
they see it and we watch some stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I think it could be really really fun. It's definitely changed. I don't know how you feel about that. How it's kind of become a commercial for all the big brands, but
Yeah, well, I would say, the bigger brands like San Diego Comic Con, New York Comic Con, they've definitely commercialized for obvious reasons. When you're at that
right.
scale, it makes sense. You have to grow and evolve. From a standpoint of a fan, I'll always have love and appreciation for those shows. On the
Mm-hmm.
side of somebody that's vended, that has covered those shows for press purposes, some of the events are a little too crammed. Some places need to evolve scale wise, and
Mm,
they haven't done that yet. That's a really big
okay.
thing. So, like New York Comic Con, they've been expanding the building for years now, and it's been portions of the building have been closed. And then obviously the pandemic happened, and it's opening again this year, but it's going to be limited capacity. A
Mm,
lot of passes were not distributed this year, so a lot of things are changing. So it might be better this year for the people that are going to go because it might be a little more, um, you know, not
a little
less
more intimate,
compact.
or yeah.
But like I've also done stuff at that event, at that venue. It's called the Jacob Javits Center, and I've done like the toy fair, which is actually it's pretty much closed space, so it's not open to the public. So it's
Mm,
only usually press and people that are going to buy. So I've done that, and you can walk a lot better at an event like that. And
mm-hmm,
obviously, as a person that's a fan of that stuff, you could really appreciate that stuff at a different level. You could set appointments. So there's always different ways of approaching them. If you haven't done a Comic Con, I would definitely make a plan to do it at some point. It's
mm-hmm,
definitely for somebody like us. It's really an enjoyable experience. Kids love it too because
mm-hmm.
the cosplayers. That's one
Yeah.
of the biggest things. Some people invest a lot of money into their cosplay, and to be
Mm-hmm.
able to see that up front, it's something else. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, there's also a Renaissance fair that's over here too, kind of one of the big ones in the Midwest. And I used to go to it as a kid, and it's funny because I saw an ad for it, and I told my wife, I was like, I've got something to tell you, like real serious, like. And she's like, what? And I was like, I think I identify as a Renaissance fair person, even though I've never dressed up, I've never cosplayed and, gone. I was like, I feel like that's who I am because when I think about that, it brings me such joy. And I'm like, now as an adult, I'll just do it because I don't care. As a kid, I was like, I don't want to
Right.
be, made fun of or whatever. But yeah, I would
T-
totally,
time to
totally do that.
embrace.
Oh yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
that's awesome.
Yeah. You said you were or are a father. Is that correct?
I am. I have
Yeah.
one 5-year-old boy. Drives me through walls, but I love him to death. He is literally a carbon copy of me in every good way and every bad way.
Hmm.
So it's like screaming to a wall. But at the end of the day, it's a pure joy to have him in the end. He's had some health issues recently, so that's been a little
Hmm.
bit of a struggle, but we're getting through it. And he's learning the ways of the collector. He's a big Thomas the Tank Engine fan. He collects Thomas the trains. Kid's got almost 500 trains now. It's absurd.
Oh, that's super fun.
But yeah, we have a lot of fun with it. I've taken him to flea markets where he looks for the old trains. The kid knows the way
Oh,
we know
cool.
our stuff. He knows. Like I bought 2 trains for him at the toy fair on Sunday. Ones I never saw before. I knew that there was like a company that made the trains that had a different names, like some weird Sunnyside City, but it's like Thomas trains. They were designed different, die cast from like 15 years ago. A woman was
Hmm.
selling some vintage stuff. She's like $10 each. I'm like, all right. I bought them. I said, he's not going to know who these guys are. He's like, oh, that's Coldy, and this is. He doesn't read yet. And I'm like, incredible. Like the kid
Wow.
just knows his stuff. It's really, it's an awesome site, and I try to support his love for it. He watches YouTube now, like every other kid.
Hmm.
His new obsession was going to the store and finding SpongeBob popsicles to find the perfect one because he found a video of a guy doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we went on a journey. We found a couple of them. I made a couple of videos. I'm like deciding should I be that dad that uploads it and see if people like it. I had him. He did it like it was a video. He's like, "Hi, this is Xander. This is my video." Like,
Oh, fun.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Like I can appreciate it being a nerd. Like, oh, my kid's a nerd already. It's pretty awesome.
Hmm. And you said his name's Xander.
Xander, correct.
Does that come from something?
It does.
Nice.
My middle name is Alexander. Um, I wanted to give him part of my name, part of my late father's name. His middle name is Charles, and I'm a big Legend of Zelda fan, so that's why his name is The Legend of Xander, with his birthday on my arm. His
Nice.
when he was born, his room was elephant themed, so I got a little elephant wearing the tunic. And I love my Triforce, and I'm a big Kingdom Hearts fan too. So wear
Oh,
my
that's cool.
I wear
A
my
little
games on my
mashup tattoo
sleeves.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
that's
these
awesome.
these were all done by Adam, my artist that I mentioned earlier as well. He's done most of the ink on me. And funny enough, this is my dad's comic book store logo from when I was a kid. Brain damage,
Oh, cool.
and that's him on there holding the comic. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's
So
awesome. Yeah, I have I let's see, Damien Alexander.
look
Love
at
the name
that.
Xander. Yeah, yeah. Love the name Xander. And we ended up finding like there was a bishop of Alexandria named Alexander. So we went with like a saint name, but it was from my love of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Xander, the character there. So that's kind of a nerdy ass take on that, which is really fun.
It's so funny you say that because one of my best friends used to get his kid like the blind boxes in the mail, like the loot crates.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And literally the day my son was born, he sends me a picture. He's like, "We got this loot crate." He's like, "And I don't know what it is, but I feel like you might know." And I showed him, and he said it was a little pop figure of Xander from Buffy.
Oh, that's
I said,
awesome.
I said, dude, his name is Xander. He's like, well, it's for your son, and he still has it. He's like, go figure. I'm like, that's crazy. So like, yeah,
Yeah,
small world, man. That's
yeah.
awesome, though.
I love that. So I'm kind of all over the place too. Um, you had mentioned too, you're not the drummer with Neon Arcadia.
I am not the drummer.
When you put
I
that together, you're like, I'm not drumming. That's not what I do.
good reason for it actually. I am a drummer. I played drums in
Hmm.
Ghosts of Eden. I
Right.
played I play drums a lot when it comes to other bands, but my realtor that helped me buy my house happened to be a musician in my scene
Hmm.
in a band that I nerd over. He's I considered him one of my top favorite drummers of all time. He's a crazy drummer, and got to meet him in the scene once, and then coincidentally we became friends on Facebook just mutually.
Nice.
Saw I was looking for a house. He reached out. We became friends from that. I made a joke. I said, "Hey, we like the house. I'm only gonna buy it if you start a band with me." He's like, "I'm in." And then we bought the house or whatever. Right? And he's like, I would have did it anyway, right? I said, I know. And, it was awesome because he's an amazing drummer. I know where my limits are. I know where the sky is, and I know that if I want to reach above and beyond, you got to collaborate with people. I like working
Mm-hmm.
with other musicians.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best thing I could have ever done. And like he's a metal drummer at heart. He's one of the fastest drummers I've ever met.
Hmm.
But he found a way to take his style and blend it in such a unique way with our music that just I feel it's one of our biggest differentiators with the synthwave scene. Like we got kind of put in that category. It wasn't intentional. I moved over to the keyboards and the synthesizers because I played that stuff. That was the first instrument for me. And every
Mm-hmm.
band I've been in, I always tried to incorporate it. So they would be like, "Oh, we're going to do a live show. I'm going to write an interlude and I'm going to play it live." So I
Hmm.
would find the reason to do it. And I did that with all
Hmm.
my other bands. Fast forward, I'm like, you know what? It's time to go back to what I love. And there wasn't really bands that had keyboards as a headline. So
Hmm.
that's where I went into it. And then the first song was getting created, and I started finding this group on Twitter that just was doing kind of the same thing. um, I was into a couple of bands in that scene. Like I'm a big Mitch Murder fan and a big Gunship fan, before I was even writing the Neon Arcadia music. So that was a big change for everything. But then fast forward to that point of, all right, we're about to put music out, and people are like, "Oh, this is like such cool synthwave." I'm like, "Okay." And then I met a mutual friend of the scene, Megan McDuffey, one of the coolest people I've ever met. I believe she was on the show before.
Yeah,
She,
yeah. She was the recommendation, or she. We got your name as a
that's awesome.
recommendation from her. Yeah.
Megan, love you if you're watching. You're the best. You know it already. Yeah, so like the second song we did was Desire, which is a song we did with Megan. And I take a lot of pride in that song because I kind of wrote the basis of that song for her before I pitched the song to her. I said, this is a song I would love Megan to sing on. If Megan doesn't sing this song, I'm not releasing this song. That's where I stood with it. And I reached out to her. I said, I know you're busy. I said, I know schedules are crazy. I said, I want to know if you like the song before we can discuss anything. And she dug it. She's like, it's really different. It's unique. She's like, I'd love to be a part of it. So we just had to find a way to make it work for everybody, which we
Hmm.
did. And we changed some stuff around based on her recommendations, and the stuff that she wrote for it. It's some of my favorite parts that we have in any of our songs. And the song has been remixed by my good friend Zenon, who I'm supporting with his shirt right now. Love you, Zenon.
Hmm.
um, I did a remix of the song actually recently. It's the most recent track that we put out because I always felt the song could have like a lighter, more ambient vibe to kind of go along with her voice. So I said, you
Hmm.
know what, we have a rule in Neon Arcadia, and it's nothing matters. Meaning, like we try to say no the least, unless we just feel like something doesn't click, and that's why there's a lot of variety in the music. A lot of people like you don't have any songs that sound like another song, like almost like you jump in a different genre every song,
Hmm.
and it's kind of we do it in the heat of the moment kind of feel. And
Hmm.
we do that because we have so many different inspirations. Like if you listen to my Zune, I'm gonna say Zune, because iPods, I never had an iPod. I had a Zune. If I put it on shuffle, the music variety would be really vast. It would go from DeBarge to My Chemical Romance to All That Remains. We just go all over the place to Michael Jackson. And I was like, like if I start writing a hook or I start writing a beat, I want to see where I want to go with it, and I want to leave it in that
Hmm.
place. I don't want to I don't want to go into dangerous territory of trying to shoehorn it into a song. Like
Mm-hmm.
we do formulate things the way musicians do, you know, verse, chorus in most cases, but the sounds and the things that we approach is just very unique how we do it. And you know, when it comes to our music, a lot of our stuff is collaborations vocally, because in the beginning we didn't have a vocalist. So we were like, all right, you know not everybody loves instrumental stuff. So why don't we see if we can get other people to sing? And that first song we released, which was Whispers, I hired somebody on Fiverr for that. And you know, it was a good stepping stone. She wrote one verse. We didn't really get to expand on the song, so it kind of repeats. But it was one of those. All right, now we know what we want, what we don't want, and we evolve
Mm-hmm.
it from there. And that's what happened. We started doing collaboration after collaboration, and the first set of singles was all collaborations. And then we brought in our good friend Tom, who was our singer in Ghosts of Eden, because believe it or not, Rich Neon in the band was in Ghosts of Eden as well. So he, myself, and Bill were the ones that founded Neon Arcadia. Tom decided to come in and join us, and his first song was Daydreams. And that was just, you know, kind of the stepping stone of, all right, we can kind of have this hybrid platform where when Tom is able to sing on a song, or if the song fits him, he can sing it, and if not, we'll do a collaboration. So that's where we kind of go up and down and left and right, and we don't have a direction that we stick to. Um, because my goal was, if we can put out music that like just about anybody can listen to, like they can all find one song, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
we served our purpose, you know. So the next song that we're working on, funny enough, we haven't spoken about it in a while. We brought it up in a tease because we wanted to see if the meaning of the song was relevant, which was, we started doing weird cryptic posts like saying, you know, we haven't been around. Do you miss us? Does anybody want to know how we're doing? Just weird stuff. You know, you get a couple of posts. We know people move on sometimes, and if you're not pumping out music, people move on to the next greatest thing, and that's fine. But this next song is called "And Then There Were Ghosts," and the idea behind that, it's kind of double play, you know, because obviously most of us were in a band called Ghosts of Eden, but it's also because we were relevant at a point. People talked about us all the time. Then we didn't put out anything for a little while, and people forgot about us. So now we're ghosts. We're just there in the wind. I had changed the name on the page to that. People thinking like we changed the name of the band, you know, like just to see
Oh,
where
fun.
people went with
Yeah.
it. And this next track's going to be instrumental. It's going to be heavily focused on the music, which we've done before, but we only have one instrumental out that was released as an instrumental, which was
Mm-hmm.
actually just Bill and I, which was a horror track called Crimson Staircase. This track, there's guitars, there's synths, there's fretless bass, there is crazy, crazy double bass, there's guitar solos, there's everything that we love blended into just a hash posh of what we ended up being determined as. We've kind of went into prog rock a little bit. You know, it wasn't the intention, but we had a lot of fun with it. We're still, you know, wrapping up the song. We're going to be teasing some music really soon, but it's going to continue the trend of just we take a departure with every song. It's a different journey, different emotion,
Mm-hmm.
different part of our lives, and you know, we'll see where it goes. We see who likes it, and you know, again, we don't want to get lucky and find a song that like becomes our niche and then we start writing to that. I want to continue
Mm-hmm.
this trend of just keep writing, you know, crazy weird stuff, you know, where we just have fun with it. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to that.
Yeah, I love that idea too. And even if you do have a song that hits in a certain way, that's awesome. I love that perspective of like, okay, well, we can rinse and repeat, but we want to create new things. And I feel like bands have been successful with that before. I was just introduced to AJR like a month ago or something. I'd heard some of their songs, but didn't know who they were. And they're different, but some of the things you're mentioning make me think of them. Like when I try to describe them, I'm like, I don't know. They're kind of like a little electronic, a little big band, a little folk, like all these things that are on different areas of the spectrum, and I'm like, different songs are different as well. It's like this huge eclectic collection, and I think that's one of the reasons I really really like them and appreciate them, is because they have just a wide range, and I think that's special when you can do that.
No, thank you. It is, but it's also it could be one of those blessings and curses because people get scared of change. People don't like different a lot of times. So a big concern with that is, oh, they're trying to do their own thing. They should stick with synthwave, or they should stick with this, or they should stick with that. I know certain things deter people from listening to us regularly, and a big part of that is we don't have the standard synthwave sound. Like we'll have our arpeggiated stuff in there. We try not to force it in there. If it feels right, it feels right. But there's to me, synthwave is defined by specific genre styles. Outrun, like that electronic reminds you of like 80s video games and or movies or soundtracks. Zenon is a perfect example of the ideal artist when I think of synthwave. Um, Mitch Berter is another. Like when I listen to their music, I'm getting transported back. I don't think that was the message that we were trying to defer here, but some people
Hmm.
feel it with certain songs. Like Cruise
Yeah, yeah.
Control, I feel like the artwork tells the story, but the music is kind of in its own age as well. And it's just, again, I feel that there's a lot of thought process behind when people do it. So, for us, we are telling a story. We're telling an emotional story that, we're also collaborating with a lot of other artists that are not part of the band. So it's another way of thinking. So just an example, Cruise Control is a perfect example. You take another band, Tom Selleck, duo synthwave group, bringing their unique style into Neon Arcadia, who's already kind of done a little bit of dark synth, a little bit of chill wave, and we're going into like almost like early '90s rock ish.
Mm.
How do we approach that? And we gave them the core foundation of the song. We said, do your thing. Like, here's some ideas that we had. If you can implement them, cool. If not, let's see what you do. It's a very unorthodox collaboration.
Hmm.
People usually, put a lot of notes. Here's what we want from you. Here's what we don't want.
Okay.
We left a lot of creative freedom. There was a few scenarios where we're like, all right, can we just do this a little different? But for the most part, we wanted them to be themselves so that the music can reflect the feel of both artists.
Hmm. And you had mentioned too, with Neon Arcadia, it sounds like there's some people that are local, but others are not in the
So
group.
so Tom, the singer, lives in Tennessee. He's from New York. He lived here when we were in Ghosts of Eden together. But Bill, Rich, and myself all live in New Jersey, and we probably live 25 to 30 minutes away from each other.
Mhm.
So I've seen Rich over the last year or two. I've seen Bill. I haven't seen them both in the same room.
Yeah,
But they and they
what's that look like to produce together, right? Because your conventional band is like, all right, we're going to come together, we're going to jam, and we're going to develop something when we jam, and then of course when you record, you could record individual, so it's all clean and it can be mixed. And when you're remote, you can obviously record individual, and then it's clean and it's mixed. But like, how do you get that same energy of that collaboration, but producing remote?
Yeah, so it's a very unique take. Like I mentioned, a lot of it is text message based. Sometimes
Mm.
Bill drives a lot when we're sending messages, so he'll send his audio files, with his opinions, his thoughts, and everything. Traditionally, Rich and I write the bare bones foundation of where the song is, where it can be. We'll usually put drum loops, or we'll write some drum ideas of where we're hearing the progression. We always leave that open for Bill to kind of do whatever he wants, or if he wants to use some of it as a basis to kind of write his own parts.
Mm.
And then usually it goes to Tom after that. Like we tell them where we're hearing things, what we're feeling, and then it just spends a bit of time with each person, little by little, and then
Oh.
basically they'll bounce everything back to me eventually. I start doing like the rough mixes to kind of see, here's where it could sound. We just need it at another level. And then a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times I'll end up just, partnering with a more established producer to help mix and potentially master those stuff because I'm not at that level. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to say early on, the first early singles were all mixed by me, including Desire. But once we got into bringing Tom in, Tom is a professional session musician, and we wanted to take it in the right direction. So I brought in other people to help with that. So we've had a different group of people help depending on the project. One of my close friends, Josh Lopez, who actually produced like the mixing and the mastering of pretty much almost everything that Tom has been on, with the exception of Chemicals. He actually did our EP as well, and he's actually the guest artist on the next single, the instrumental. He's doing all of the lead guitar work on there because he has a studio. He plays guitar. He plays 8-string guitar. He's crazy. Another, really out there. But yeah, for the most part, I build the foundation of how I feel I can sell it to someone to
Mm-hmm.
take it to the next level, and that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much what we've been doing. It's worked, because I don't want to pretend to be better at something I'm not. And when it comes to music production quality, I know that we have to get better with each song. That's the goal here,
Mm-hmm.
because that also deters people from listening. If they listen to a mix, and I know what's out there, I know people like Billie Eilish are able to produce in their bedroom and take it to a whole nother level. Not everybody has the luxury to learn that stuff, and I want to
Mm-hmm.
do what I can with what I have. That's pretty much what we try to do here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. And it sounds like you kind of create that foundation and then hand it off, and then people add themselves into it and then pass it along. They add themselves, and it loops back through. There's a feedback loop. There might be some changes, some modifications, goes back to them, gets updated, so it's constantly kind of being um, added to until at the end you're like, okay, this has got to be it because we got to get it out. I'm sure there's a time when you're like, we could do better at this, or I would love to change this, but like we got to get it out. This is where we're at, and it's going to be awesome. Like, we just got to finish it.
That's the worst part of the process because I get so anxious to like, I'm like, all right, we've been sitting on this song forever now, like, and
Mm-hmm.
that's probably just the worst thing to have in your brain,
Yeah,
because I feel like for us, like Rich reminds me, he's like, it doesn't matter. It like
yeah,
we don't have people sitting and waiting and demanding an album. I said, but if we did, is that going to make it any better? I said, I feel we should just kind of follow a flow. We had a mindset of try to do a song a month. Like
mm-hmm.
we're not capable of producing full albums, like an old school band. So if we could do a song a month, we're happy. Like the last couple of months have been hard, and we've tried to make do with what we can, and that's why I put that Redux out to kind of give people something different while we're working on stuff. But I also don't want to like keep telling people it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, and then they just get anxious and then walk away.
Yeah.
So it's a tough scenario when you're like we're part of a label in the UK, which I'm grateful to. But again,
Oh,
like
that's cool.
it's one of those scenarios where we don't have enough going on to like be like, hey, here's what's coming. It's like let's get some stuff together, and then we're gonna work with them. The label is CW1 Records. They've been awesome to us since we've been part of it, but unfortunately, it's just one of those timing scenarios where we haven't really pumped out music since we started working with them. So
Oh,
hopefully,
sure.
the next couple of songs, will be part of that, and we'll be able to grow, with them.
Yeah. No, that's interesting too. Um, I know you got to leave at 1, so I want to respect that. And we typically do play this little game. Let's see if I can find the graphic here. Here we go. You ready for this?
This truth is a lie.
Oh, right. That's right. It's game time. We're going to play Two Truths and a Lie. We've been playing this for a whole year with everyone. Um, Often, we'll go first, and you got to guess which story of 3 is a lie. But because we just want to hear from you and get you out of here, get you on your way, we'll just have you come up with 3 stories that you can tell us. One of them is a lie, 2 others are truths. And we are live, so people at home can guess. And if you participate, if you guess, you'll get some swag. We've got coasters. This is not an example of the coaster because they're not in my room. But you'll get branded coasters from us and some other fun stuff if you participate. So this is basically just me vamping to give you a second to come up with 3 different stories.
It's funny because I've had to do this at my job before too, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
I like this. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, what is your job, by the way?
I work as a support engineer for a company that deals with digital forensics. So I pretty much work mostly with law enforcement to pretty much help deter devices that have been apprehended by law enforcement to help put criminals away. You know, unfortunately, I can't go into much more detail,
Sure.
but it's something I do take a lot of pride in because I do help make the world a safer place in a sense. My company provides tools to the law enforcement, and I support that product when they're having issues with it or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're such a chill dude. I would love to call you, you know, if I had some software issue like, oh my gosh, I need Benny. Hey man, what's happening?
and funny enough, I am that guy for a lot of people. I worked a Geek Squad for many years too, so I've kind of
nice.
done a little bit of everything. But no, awesome. Thank you for hearing that out.
Yeah. All right, you got your 3 stories?
I think so.
You ready to play?
Yeah, we could do this.
All right. Yeah, go for it.
So first story is when I was a kid, my older brother's 10 years older than me, was in a group, a dance kind of pop group, where like they had like a trio true of like dancing, and they would be part of a band. Like traditionally, like when an artist, like let's say Britney Spears, sings, they have dancers, but the dancers aren't really part of the group. Like they were part of the group. Like the idea was to market it, but the person that they were dancing for was Debbie Gibson, and this was early '90s.
Amazing.
I got to meet Debbie Gibson. I got an autograph from her. She was really cool, and my brother had a Gumby haircut, like literally the sideways hair. It was pretty awesome, and his nickname was Gumby too. So that's one. 2, out of all the toys that I collect, one of my favorite toys happens to be something that I grew up with as a kid, but didn't have anymore, which was an old 80s cartoon called Mask, Mask. So it was a cartoon that like these people had helmets that gave them powers. They had vehicles that would transform. Like one guy had a bike that turned into a helicopter. And recently I came across a game site that I follow that sells toys too. Somebody did a trade. They traded a bunch of these toys. I got them at a steal, which they go for a ton of money. So that is like my prized possession right now. And the last thing is my middle name. See, I have multiple middle names, but I only go by one. And I had a name that I used to go by all the time, and it was Xander. So even though my name is Benny and stuff like that, there was several years where people called me Xander instead of Benny. Little strange.
I love it. That's good. You kind of set this up and you teed it in the beginning when you were talking about Xander and the names and stuff.
Where are you listening?
I think you said that Xander, your son, he's got a middle name from your dad, Charles. I thought that's what you said. Let's see. Xander. Oh, wait. Yes. So Alexander, you said your middle name was Alexander, but then you also said you have multiple middle names, but that would check out if you went by Xander. That's okay. All right. So Emily, you guessed number 2 is a lie. Oops, let me show that. I'll give you free stuff when we get it, Emily. You'll be the first to get it. So number 2 was collecting your favorite toy you found. Was a TV show called The Mask?
It was called Mask. So I don't remember
Mask.
the acronym, but it was like M.A.S.K.
Okay.
Had
That's one that I haven't heard of.
Yeah, it was mid '80s. It's something that like it's highly sought for now. Believe it or not, crazy enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna look this up now. All right, so that was it. That you were able to find some at a steal, right?
Yep.
And then the third one, middle name, you were called Xander for a while. Yeah, I mean that I think that checks out because you mentioned your middle name being Alexander. And then we got, forgive me if I'm saying this wrong, Dalma.
It's Jama. Believe it or not, that's my
Jama.
mom. Hi, Mom.
Oh, nice.
My
That's
biggest
awesome.
fan. My biggest fan.
Welcome. All right, so she says first is true. So, I mean, that sounds awesome. Your 10-year older brother was in a dance pop group, and he danced with or for Debbie Gibson.
Essentially, yep.
That's amazing.
That is 100% true.
All right. So your mom also says the second one's a lie. And I think the third one's true. So I'm going to have to go with our people at home and say number 2 is a lie.
Okay. So you let me know when I need to unveil the truth.
Yeah, you can go ahead and do that now. I think everyone got their guests in.
Okay. So I was able to secure a small little set of mask figures for a crazy deal. These figures and sets usually cost about $100 each individually for like a vehicle and a character. I was able to score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 of them for about $140, and pretty much almost near complete. I have them on display. I'll send you a picture later since the camera won't reach. I have
that'd be
a
amazing.
painting that was custom of one of the characters' helmets, signed by the voice actor right behind it.
Oh my
So
gosh.
the reason that the last one's a lie is because I wanted people to call me Xander, but nobody would call me Xander. I had one ex-girlfriend that I wanted the name because I liked it more than my name. I had an ex-girlfriend that got me a gift as a bowling ball, and it has Xander on it. So it's the closest I ever had, which I can now pass down to my son, which is awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, I was called Ace in junior high for a long time because of my love for Ace Ventura. That's as far as it went. I was always Ben, Benny, Benji. Those were my names all my life, pretty much. Now it's become Benny Rose, which I'm very grateful for the last 12 years. That's what people identify me as. But yeah, Xander was never a name that I got to appreciate for myself, so I passed it on to my son.
Oh, that's awesome. That was super tricky and super deep, which I appreciate. You pulled several things together to make that happen. And you fooled your mom, which is amazing.
It's awesome.
Cool.
But thank you so much. This was an awesome experience. I really appreciate it.
I mean, thank you. I feel like kindred spirits here. So we'll have you back on. Maybe we can do in the evenings when we have a little bit more time. That'd be a blast. We could you could share some music and stuff too, because I think that'd be really, really cool to do. But yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking the time. Let's see. Next week, we've got a Matthew Pearson, who's a seminarian studying previously studied in Rome. He's here for the summer. Come and hang out with us. That'll be fun. We haven't had a seminarian before. Then we've got, we're out for a week. And then we got Max Olmstead, who has been on the show before, but now he actually works for us. So that'll be really fun to see. Check that out. And that's what I got. What can we plug for you, Benny?
Well, you can always find me on Twitter at It's Benny Rose or at the Neon Arcadia. Like I said, we have a new instrumental coming really soon. I promise we'll be teasing it in the coming weeks. Really excited for it. We think it's going to change the way people feel about us, hopefully for the better, because we are experimenting once again. It's something that we have not done. A lot of pride is going into the song, but there's a lot of deep reasoning behind the song. Like I mentioned before, we don't want to feel forgotten, but sometimes that's just an emotion that comes through. I have some stuff I'm working on potentially to pitch for a horror documentary that will most likely release before that is even considered. So we'll still put it out as a single. So there is other stuff in the works. Outside of that, you can actually check out. I have a podcast that I'm really happy about. It's called the Media Masterminds, and you can find that on iTunes, Spotify, all those different podcast locations. We are a duo that talk about movies, pop culture. It's mostly Marvel, DC, our love for it, our knowledge about it. We do spoilers. We're just fans shooting it and talking all about it. And we do a best of where like we'll do our best Marvel movies. We've done our top 10 Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. We kind of mix it up. We've been at it. We're friends for almost 20 years. We've been doing it for a really long time. And we have a new show every week, every Monday. So please take a listen and appreciate all the support. Thank you again.
That's awesome. I'm going to sign up right as soon as I get off and pick up my phone over there. So thank you, Benny, so much for taking the time. This was awesome. We'll get you back on. Thanks for tuning in. If you did answer, send us your info. We can get your mom's info too, so we can send her some fun stuff.
Awesome.
For tuning in, and that's what we got. We'll see you next time.
Take care and have fun.